AskReddit by Lawmatron. What's something that you consider a red flag that others might consider a green flag? Talking like a TikTok psychotherapist, every single situation or interaction is about trauma and healing and setting boundaries and weirdly medicalized. Being aware of your mental and emotional health is definitely good, but when every moment or feeling is pathologized, it definitely crosses into red flag territory. Almost every one of those people will tell me how I feel, and they're usually very off base. It always sucks to break it to them, but a good mental health professional doesn't put words in your mouth or throw out armchair diagnoses at every turn. To make it worse, 99% of these interactions happen when I'm not experiencing distress at all. This doesn't make anyone feel closer to you or trust you with their feelings. In fact, it's usually the opposite. It's very uncomfortable and stressful. The Nigerian flag. I'm colorblind. Have you ever received an email from someone claiming to be a Peruvian prince? People who ask about red flags and green flags. Seems like Ali trying to be more human. This is my tinfoil hat and I wear it proudly. Why do we even need Ali, when what are you convinced people just pretend to like and similar chestnuts are good for tons of upvotes and comments week after week? Being very hardworking and career oriented. They tend to be distant once the early fun days are over and will pick work over life most the time. I'd rather have a fun-loving partner and live less high on the hog than have a partner who spends 80% of their free time working or talking about work-related things. Like work's over now, it's time to fuck around and talk about fun stuff. You stole the words right out of my mouth. My view towards most careers has drastically changed in recent years. It is not attractive for a partner to be stressed out, busy all of the time, cancelling plans because she needs to work on this very important PPT about widget sales. I'd rather date a waitress who cares for her cats or whatever than a burnt out corporate drone who hates her life. Some have misinterpreted this as misogyny. No, it's a difference in an outlook on life. Get that corporate nonsense out of my home as much as possible. At Corporation Incorporated we treat everyone like family. Which really means they are going to call you at all hours of the day, expect you to work on your day off and give you cookies, pizza, coffee as a reward instead of actual pay raises. Oh, so you meant we're like family, like my abusive family? Well then I'm right at home, I guess. I really don't understand why people think it's healthy to have a staunch, even angry, opposition to talking about past relationships. What I find even more befuddling is therapists who insist past relationships should ideally not be discussed, or very little. To me it shows where you come from, what you learned, how relationships shaped you and taught you who you are. As a meme put it, she's not trauma dumping, she's explaining the law. Using a lot of therapy speak, Myers-Briggs, dark triad, etc. It's the modern equivalent of if everyone you run into is an asshole. It should be noted that Myers-Briggs shouldn't under any circumstances be looped in with the rest of psychology and therapy speak. Dark triad and gaslighting is misuse of actual things, while Myers-Briggs is just astrology for people who don't like astrology. Jealousy. Some people apparently think it's cute, or that it shows that they really love me. Nah. Get out of here with that shit. I will counter that with people trying to inspire jealousy. A guy who will get in someone's face if they insult me, and will defend my honor. No thanks. I've seen some people who seem to think it's romantic, even if the guy is literally starting fights, but all I see is a nasty temper I want nothing to do with. You can't stand up for someone while also knowing what battles are worth fighting. Right. Like usually, they are just escalating a situation and causing it to be more dangerous for both of you. Talking about how much money they have or how many nice and expensive things they have. We all like money. How nice for you that you have plenty of money. If you gotta talk about it all the time, it's probably the best thing about you, which speaks volumes. When someone describes themselves as career driven on a dating app. Nothing objectively wrong with being motivated, but here in Toronto, anybody I've met who described themselves that way, their work was their entire personality, their obsession, and they had no life of any kind underneath it. Fellow Torontonians here, I found those dudes to be wannabes. Always posing with their parents' luxury cars and overusing the phrase work hard, play hard. Being religious. I'm not hardcore anti-religion by any means, I just prefer my GF to also not be religious. I had a few religious GFs, and while they insisted that my lack of faith was not disturbing, it always came down to them being unhappy because I would not go through the motions of being religious to maintain an illusion that I was too. So lack of religion became a requirement for me. They're the same flag. For those of us who are colorblind. Pranks, usually seen as having a sense of humor but just a plain red flag to me. Depends very much on their definition of a prank. If they mean things like RI bombing the fridge, that's awesome green flag. If they mean hurting someone for fun red flag. Emo it's only a prank if the prankee is having at least as much fun as the prankster, otherwise it's just bullying. Anyone who gets super into pop psychology regarding relationships. Stuff like love languages. It's okay to utilize that kind of stuff to help express yourself, but anyone who sees that kind of stuff as the absolute truth is not good. Each relationship is different and changes throughout. There's not final, permanent category that fits all ways. Yeah, it's like the zodiac, fun, but not to be taken seriously. What the fuck is Reddit's obsession with red and green flags? Just stop already. Maybe someone should wave a yellow flag at all this nonsense. Possessiveness. Yep. I don't mind clinginess, that tends to come from a place of insecurity. But possessiveness comes from a need to control, which often links with a lack of empathy. People with no empathy are not good partners. Being overly passive. If I have to come up with all ideas and activities and you have nothing to offer, why would I want to spend time with you? But who on earth considers that a green flag? I can only see the red flag aspect. Lying to someone to supposedly protect their feelings. This is not a positive trait, they are dishonest, regardless of the reason. Even more so when they refuse to apologize for their dishonesty. Being God-fearing. Some people seek this quality out. I run away. It's weird but I don't mind too much. I'm a cat person so if someone fears dogs it doesn't really impact how we'd interact. A lot of the time people love it when they meet someone who seems super helpful and generous. For me, it puts me on the lookout for someone who has trouble with boundaries or who has low self-esteem. I feel like along with this if someone always had to one-up your generosity. Like I've given someone food and then they use the food I gave them to make something even more elaborate and gave it back to me. I was like okay. Disdain for my solitude. I'm not lonely and I'm not cheating, I just enjoy not thinking about anyone else at all. We never fight argue. When I hear this about a couple, I think it's possible they actually don't communicate well and or one or both of them is conflict averse, which is bad. Conflict is not the same as abuse. It's inevitable in a healthy relationship and shouldn't be super scary. Edit, I added argue with fight, because in this context it's the same. The idea is that they feel they have a conflict-free relationship and, as I say, this could possibly mean that they have issues communicating or tolerating healthy amounts of conflict. I think of a fight as involving yelling, screaming and general nastiness, insults, threats, vindictiveness, childishness, and or physical actions like door slamming, throwing things, property destruction, or violence. My parents actually never fought. They certainly has disagreements and even arguments, but they settled them with mature discussions. crystals, energy, religious. Astrology, but only if it's like a core personality trait and not just a it's fun to believe type thing. Calls more than 2-3 people narcissist. Places fault on other people for everything negative in their life. When their friends shit talk men often. I have a shit ton of crystals, one of my favorite things to collect. Although not because I think they have any sort of magical powers, I just think they are neat and I'm really into geology lol. Me talking to some friends. She was judging me for my Android phone giving her the green text bubbles. That was a big red flag. Friend, I think your green text bubbles are a red flag. I see this so often and I just don't get it. You're being tribal over your own phone. And you're picking the slightly more lame one,